just want to keep her with us. One of the doctors said, if we can just 5:35, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. We have open forum, and there's obviously no, Joanne?
There's nobody here, but I did have a comment emailed to me,
Okay,
and the comment was from Kendra Surface, and her comment is, earlier this summer was mention of some sort part of the cooling system needed to be replaced, which cost $30,000. I used to live there. That place is in terrible condition. My concern is if MHA and board don't sell that building, it'll hurt the rest of us because of your budget issues with high rise and other matters. I want public housing to keep going on like the way it is. I don't want to deal with vouchers and public housing becoming public. The building is over MHA's heads beyond repair. The decision is on the board. I do agree with HUD. Sell it. Thanks, Kendra. And then she sent a follow-up comment that she don't want public housing to become private. So that was her comment.
okay. Well, we have some work going on Carlson Plaza to be able to make that decision. And perhaps, Joanne, you can reply to her that we are in the process of reviewing the situation with that building, and that when we are able to make a decision or take an action, we will let her know.
Yes, we will have to let all the residents know. We will also have to have a lot of resident meetings with staff and the board members. And one of the programs actually requires resident consent to convert. So
we certainly agree with her assessment that the building needs some serious
yes,
work.
do.
And so I think you can reply on our behalf that that's the case and that we are in process.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to add to that and say not only agree, but I think it's really impressive, and I appreciate her taking the time to write and state that. It's really helpful to get that feedback and perspective.
Sure. Thank her, of course.
How many inmates reside in Carlson Plaza?
I mean, residents?
Residents, yeah.
Inmates, yeah.
They are sort of a captured group.
Yes. There are 47 apartments, and I think we have 6 vacancies right now there.
So a total of generally one per apartment or more?
Generally, I
So
think.
generally, we've got probably 40 people involved.
Yeah, 41. So.
Could we absorb them in the other units that we have, for example, here or in other places? Potentially?
Potentially. Those are all 1-bedroom apartments, and the majority of what we have available here are studio apartments. So unless they agree, we would have to transfer them to a like unit. We can temporarily transfer to a larger unit, but you know, again, depending what platform we use, if any, residents can also be issued tenant protection vouchers to use in a unit of their own, and then take back to the building if we were to go that direction.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we're ready to empty that building until we decide what we're going to do with it.
No.
But can I ask, have we run a scenario to see what it does for our budget and our expenses if we were to transfer the residents of that building into our unoccupied spaces and then just shut down that building completely and take all those units offline?
We have not. It's going to take a bit to go back and separate a lot of those expenses out. because, you know, a lot of them are not building specific. Some expenses are not building specific, some are. But the consultant that we're working with, the head consultant that is giving us the technical assistance, I believe she runs that scenario for us after the inspections have been done and turned in and recommendations have been made. She will probably, not probably, I think she will make recommendations and show us what that means financially.
From our side, is it possible to see just what the income side does? Like in terms
yeah.
of what, just curious, I mean, just a general curiosity, not anything we
Yeah.
need, you know, in the next week or anything, just something for conversation purposes, since this is something that is an ongoing discussion.
Yes, Mandy.
Now that we know that we can take apartments offline for a variety of reasons, depending on how all that plays out, that might be worth thinking about.
Well, we can only take them offline for certain reasons. And if we were to take them off for modernization like we did this building, there would have to be a plan in place to either sell it, demolish it, or rehab it.
Okay.
I guess,
Okay.
Linda Morse, do we know the extent of the mold in that building yet?
No,
Okay.
we don't know that there's any mold in that building. And we're not looking into that until we get some of this other stuff taken care of. I don't think we want to know if there's mold in that building until we get this other process done.
We know that there was in one unit as a result of a failed HVAC unit that was not reported to us timely. And by the time we got there, it was a problem.
So have we
We did
closed
have-
it down? Did we
I'm
close
sorry?
it? Did we close it down, or did we remediate it in that one unit?
Remediate. We transferred the tenant that was living there out of the unit, and we are getting estimates for remediation. We have one, we're waiting on another one.
And shut the door, huh? Okay.
Yes. And fix the AC unit.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So much for consent, for open forum, which is unusual. I like a motion on the consent agenda as it exists.
I move the consent agenda. Item A, approval of the October 21 regular meeting minutes. B, approval of the executive director's report. C, the approval of financial reports.
I need a second.
second,
Jamie seconds.
Under discussion, because we have a motion and a second,
Right.
I'd like for this board to consider taking the financial reports out of the consent agenda. The consent agenda implies something very routine, and I believe that the finances of this organization are not and shouldn't be considered too casually to just say aye and go on. I think we have to really look at the financial reports of this organization from now on until we get out of troubled status. So I'm not asking you to do anything tonight, but I think it's something that this board needs to consider.
Got a motion, Linda?
Well, there's a motion and a second on the floor, so I'm not gonna.
So I think I think Linda's point is well taken. And I think that, I don't even know if we need a motion.
I don't
I
think
think
we need a motion.
on future, I don't think we need a motion to change the consent agenda. So I would suggest that starting in December, that the consent agenda include the meeting minutes and the executive director's reports, and that the financial reports be a separate item starting in December.
I have a suggestion. Why do we not, or I guess a question, do we want to just put approval of the minutes as one item, approval of executive director's report, another like item 2 and 3, and approval of the financial reports as 3 and 4? And just, not have a consent agenda, just have them as separate items on the agenda. We used to do that years ago. And then the board requested that we have a consent agenda. There was a lot less going on then when we did that. Any thoughts?
I could accept that readily.
Before we make a change, I want to ask, Roger and Patty both sent us correspondence in regard to our consent agenda. Does this recommendation meet what they're suggesting in that correspondence? And I think there was some guidelines to board minutes and things such as that. I'd say if we're going to make a revision, I'd like to make sure that that revision is consistent with what they're advising us to do before we do anything different.
My impression of those 3 documents was that we do exactly what they say in those 3 documents. And I was a little unhappy, miffed, frustrated, insulted that they would send us documents to say we should do exactly what we do. And I don't think that there was a recommendation about consent agenda or not, Jamie.
Okay.
But I certainly don't think there would be any reason for us not to have a consent agenda starting in December and have those 3 items as the first 3 items of business.
I think
I don't have any.
I'm sorry. I think different agencies.
I was just gonna say.
Do it.
Go ahead,
different
Joanne.
ways. And we Googled some other agencies to see how they do it. I think HUD's main point and concern is that they want to see in the minutes that there is discussion, and they're not just kind of dismissed under the consent agenda. But I feel like if we put them each as their own separate item, that might promote more discussion as they're being approved.
I also think that we need to include those reports with the minutes. Since none of the HUD people have ever taken the trouble to read our packets and our agendas, and they seem to have no idea the information that we receive, it seems like we need to actually put the information that we receive in the minutes along with our comments and motions and so forth, so that we can show that Joanne is providing us with the information, that we're seeing the information, and that Mandy is providing the financial information, and that we're seeing that information, and somehow force them to see it.
Well, Jan, when we spoke with them, their concern, they saw that the financials were in the packets. What their concern was that there did not appear by the minutes that were written that there was any discussion about those financial reports, or if something was over budget, why it was over budget, or if something was kind of stuck out or was a little extraordinary, why that was. And so that was the reason that on the cover sheet this month, you won't see any highlights of the financial reports, and Mandy is prepared to give a full report on the financial reports.
I saw that.
So that it can be discussed and put in the minutes. And I think that's what they want to see, is interaction with the financial reports. I mean, we can certainly attach them if that's the wish of the board, but that was kind of what they explained to us. And I think that we have finally gotten kind of a schedule down that works for both the fee accountant and us to have their reports in time to put in the board packets. We're submitting our information earlier to them, and they are, I think, being more cognizant of our needs. And it has taken a couple of firm reminders, and Mandy's pretty good about staying on top of it and emailing the gal that works on our books. So hopefully we have that resolved. Hopefully. I know
Yeah,
it gets a little hairy.
And what we got this month was from them, right?
Yes,
Because I saw their logo on it.
yes, and last month as well.
Yeah. So
Not the
But
cover
I-
page, but
I,
yeah.
I understand that. My frustration is that they said we weren't informed. The board wasn't informed. Not just that we didn't say that the minutes didn't reflect it, but they suggested that we didn't know what we were doing and that we weren't informed. I mean, it was a direct insult. And the only way that I know to answer that is to attach those reports so that I think it's a waste of time in a meeting. If we received a report, and other than the questions that we've asked, that the minutes don't reflect that we've nitpicked every little detail in either of those reports. If the details are clear in the reports that we received and we accept that and we ask a couple questions, that doesn't mean that we're not informed or don't care or don't understand.
I understand where you're coming from with that. But we purposely did not put any comment in the financial statements this month so that they could be discussed, recorded, and acknowledged.
Okay.
The other thing that was pretty brand new to us is every time something is over budget, a line item, they want us to do a budget revision. We have never, ever heard that before. They have always told us to project the best you can at the beginning of the year. Things are going to happen through the year. When you get close to the end of the year and have a better idea, do a budget revision. So
That's when we had reserves though.
yes, that is true.
So that's why they're tightening up on us, because we don't have anything to fall back on right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that starting in the end of January, that the people at HUD are going to be on a different kind of set of pressures than are under now politically, and that some of this kind of attitude might relent a bit.
Well, just to complicate things a little more, Patty and Rod are both leaving their positions. So we're
I'm
gonna,
sorry.
we met over the phone with the person that's taking Patty's place. He's pretty new to HUD. I said, welcome, enjoy the ride. And Ron is, I really hate to see Ron go. He is a good financial analyst. And he is moving on to the Department of Defense, which is where he went to HUD from. He's going back to DOD. So it's thought, it's nothing in stone yet, but it's anticipated that one of the other financial analysts in that office, who I have worked with in the absence of others before, and he is very good, will be taking our agency on. So that's comforting. But it's like training a whole new
Oh, no, in the middle of a mess. All right, so starting in December, we're not going to have a consent agenda. We will deal with each of these items separately, but since we have a motion on the floor to deal with them together tonight, I would like to ask Joanne if she has anything she would like, any comments she'd like to make about her report, and then I'll ask if anybody has questions.
Well, I have a comment I would want to make, a couple comments to make about my report. And then Mandy has, is going to give a financial
Yeah,
report.
I'll get to her. I'll get to
Okay,
her.
Okay.
You
Um,
first.
I wanted to at first announce that Alyssa Bowley, who we just hired in August for our front desk person, and we're thoroughly enjoying and was doing really, really
She's
good,
leaving.
has decided to leave. She got a better job offer, about $4 an hour more. So she's leaving us effective November 30th. So we will be looking to fill that position. I also wanted to just call attention to in the director's report, I did add a section for maintenance updates. And if anybody has any comments about additional information they would like to see in that, or concerns about it, please let me know. And we'll put in there whatever it is that you want. A lot of it is included in the project status report as far as number of work orders processed and units turned over and that kind of thing. But
Okay.
and then the last thing was just to let you all know that I did submit a grant, an emergency safety and security grant is what it's called, application for just over $87,000 to fund expansion of the security camera system in the apartment towers, the key card system at the apartment towers in Carlson Plaza, and to add deadbolt locks, just single cylinder that lock from the outside, to the apartment doors, the apartment doors interior in the apartment towers. I have to confess, generally HUD has a deadline of midnight on the day that they specify, so November 17th at 12:00 a.m. Eastern time is usually their deadline, and I glossed over it, the time, and they made this one due by close of business Eastern time, 5:00 p.m. And it was about 9:30 last night when I submitted it, but I decided I did all that work, I'm submitting it anyway.
Okay.
So we'll see if we got any grace.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions about Joanne's report?
I appreciated seeing the maintenance activities and the additional detail that was there. So thank you.
Okay. Any
I have
questions
a
about?
question.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the problems with the heat pump that you're getting in touch with Johnson Controls about, is that in the tower?
Yes, we've had several problems with the new heat pumps in the units. A lot of them leaking Freon.
Okay.
Probably a handful of compressors that have gone out. And we were initially told that the warranty was already over, and got to questioning that some more. As a matter of fact, Johnson Controls called me for a customer satisfaction survey. And I told them I'd be a lot happier if they would take care of these.
Yeah.
So I finally got some answers today from Michael Maurer with Johnson Controls, and he and the manufacturer are working out some details to see what they can cover. So, but I did tell them that I thought the units were something's gone wrong in manufacturing, because as many as we've had to recharge with Freon should not be happening
Mhm.
this soon. And compressors should not. We've had to replace one entire unit.
When did the warranty expire? Do we know?
Well, it depends on what the installation date was, and I believe the test and balance date. I'm not sure what all they're weighing in there.
So it's based on installation date, not certificate of occupancy?
Yes, because
Even
the units were installed and the system was started up prior to reoccupying the building. We couldn't leave the building set without any kind of airflow in it,
yeah,
especially with those windows the way they were before we got those replaced. And so the system really had to be brought up, and they had to bring it up to do the test and balance, and every single unit was tested. So I don't know if the problems were just not showing up then, or I don't know. But hopefully we can at least recoup some of our costs for that.
yeah.
That would be nice.
Be going out that quickly. I mean,
No.
these units should last at least 20 years.
Yes.
And if they're going out that fast, the manufacturer needs to step up to it. So I wouldn't let up on that at all.
No, I don't intend to.
So
Okay.
Joanna, I want to ask about apartment towers and the occupancy.
Uh-huh.
There are it looks like 17 vacancies still, and there were a month or two ago last
Again.
time, 20. So you are chipping away, and you have 17 applicants on the wait list, it looks like. So what do you attribute, and I noticed generally in the reports, there seems to be an uptick in activity, applications, number of approvals, and it's not big, but it's just slightly up. What is it that you would attribute that to? The new advertising, the new marketing plan? What would you?
Well, we've increased marketing some. We haven't gotten, I won't say we've hit the ground running. We're gearing up to that. But, Linda, it's really hard to say. And a lot of times it just depends on the applicants that we're working with, because, some of them are right there and get their documents in and get everything in, and we can determine their eligibility or not. And some of them just drag and drag and drag things in. And then as soon as you move 3 people in, 4 people move out. And, so it's a game that's kind of hard to stay ahead of sometimes. But, he is working with all of the applicants that are on the waiting list still, literally, as they come in the door. I saw a lady out on Facebook the other night that was talking about she was getting evicted. Her husband or boyfriend, whatever he was, had pending disability, and they'd gotten an eviction notice, and they sounded like they'd done everything right in accordance with the CDC moratorium. And so, and they had applied for assistance, and the landlord declined to accept assistance from any of the programs. So I don't know what is going on there, but I did reach out to her and asked her to give me a call so we could talk about our programs and how we might be of assistance in that way. So we're kind of keeping our eyes out there, besides on our Facebook page, but just if we see something, kind of trying to send them in our direction. We have also gotten a few applications from between the community care team and people that we're working with on that group, and as well as the Be Able group has been a good advocate for us.
Good.
So we are getting some more referrals coming in as well.
I just think that the highest priority from everything we heard from HUD was occupancy, occupancy, occupancy. So
Yes.
that has to be where we put our emphasis. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Agreed.
And that
And
same,
just a reminder is, Linda, that we've had as many as 86 of those apartments filled at any one time. what I've noticed since the building's been new is that the coming and going seems to be more frequent
I think it has.
in the apartment towers. People that lived there just lived there for a really long time and nobody ever left. And now Patrick's putting people are moving in, but then they're moving out, and it just seems much more fluid than it used to be.
Very unstable period of time, but the thing that when I read the report, the thing I looked at was positive. You got 17 people lined up trying to get in. And if that number stays like that, I don't see an issue of people trying to get in. That's good.
Yeah, and he's working with all those. And then, like I said, sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Both our agency and the Area Agency on Aging are issuing vouchers. And some of the people that live in not just the apartment towers, but all of our properties are receiving those letters. And people like the Section 8 program because they can go out and kind of find their own unit in their own neighborhood. And, they're not necessarily assigned to a unit and say, this is what you get. So it's a good thing, and it's almost an oxymoron. It's good for one program and not so good for the other, but that's the way it works. So we're happy to have been able to help them while they were waiting on their Section 8, and hopefully we can find more. And some are not interested in Section 8, but I bet you 75% if you ask them, would you prefer public housing or Section 8? They're going to say they want Section 8. Section 8 is portable. They can take that anywhere in the United States.
Or independent.
Yeah.
I think one of the main selling points for the high rise is having the senior center next door and the luncheon, the meals they have. And of course it's closed. And so, but I wonder, are Carlson Plaza people as stable as, I feel like that renovating the high rise was a huge disruptor in the culture of the building, and that the Carlson Plaza culture is still intact. And if we renovate it, we'll be moving them all out and have to start over again. And we could expect to have the same situation when we reopen it that we have here. But anyway, it's good to just have that discussion. Thank you. I won't belabor.
Just
Okay.
have one more question to that point. A couple months ago, and then again last month, we talked specifically about changing the way we do our turnover of units. Have we made any adjustments? Are those at fruition now, or are we still kind of in process of doing that?
A little bit of both. And Mike and I have talked. One of the newest maintenance person that we hired, Robert Vega, by the way, he goes by Romeo, is just about to come out of training. So, right now we have 2 guys working together all the time while he's in training. And he's just about to be cut loose. So it's going to help that we'll be able to have one working over here, one working over here. One might be working on work orders. One might be doing unit turnover instead of 2 of them doing the same thing at a time. So I think that's going to help us some. But we have been reducing the number of contracts as much as we can and having them done in-house, even with carpet cleaning. And painting where, there are so many units to get ready that if we have somebody ready to go and they're not in a place where they can get that unit ready right away, I feel like it would be better to pay the contract and get the unit occupied, because we're not going to get subsidy unless it's ready or occupied.
How are we doing on some of those that have been offline for a really long time?
Well, they're not offline. They're
I mean,
vacant.
have not been ready.
Yeah, they are. We have revamped the vacancy list. And so the vacancy list is in date order. And so their instructions are to get the oldest ones ready first. There are a couple of old ones that are sitting there that have problems, i.e. we've had to wait on the plumber to come and run a camera down the sewer line because we have an issue with the sewer line, or something of that nature. But and we have, I asked Mike to give Habitat Restore a call and see if they would be interested in coming and picking up the usable furniture that's left in the units to sell at a Restore, because in turn it's going to help with affordable housing in the community. So he has made contact with them. Right now, because of COVID, they're not coming out to look at things. So he has taken pictures and sent them to them, and they will let us know what, if anything, they're interested in. But they have been chipping away at getting those apartments emptied out and getting them ready to get in there and get going.
Terrific. That's great. Any other questions on the director's report?
Just a comment, I appreciate knowing that 3 of your tenants have applied for, or at least inquired about that rental assistance program through the state. So that's good to know. I appreciate you tracking that.
Yeah.
Okay, then Mandy, I'm going to move to Mandy and let Mandy talk to us about the financial report.
About some variances. All right, so if you guys will turn to your budget progress report, I will go over the variances that we're either really low on or really high on. But the first thing I want to state is I worked on the 2020 budget today, and it looks like we will have $11,800 more in rent than what I budgeted for, which is good. Joanne also applied for shortfall funding through HUD, and we're projected to get $232,000 of that money. When we talked to HUD yesterday, he instructed me to go ahead and put that on the budget as income coming in, even though we haven't officially got a letter from HUD.
What is that money, Mandy?
Well, this year they, I think they had 30 million set aside for agencies that are insolvent or troubled.
Okay.
And it kind of helps them build up their reserves so they can get out of that troubled status.
Well, that's wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the troubled and the insolvent agencies get priority to the money. If there's anything left over, other agencies can apply for it. But
I think 2 million would get us out of the hole.
That would be nice.
2.5, Linda, go for 2.5.
Pass that on. Pass that on.
Then if you go down to other tenant revenue, you can see it's up 312%. I actually looked through this account today to make sure that was accurate, and it really is accurate. So that's work orders and late fees that we have taken from tenants this year. So that's a pretty good substantial amount of money coming in for us. If you head down to fee accountant, it is showing 104%. And the reason why some of these are showing really high is how the fee accountant reports prior year expenses. So if I pay a bill that's 2019 and I pay it in 2020, she codes it to the 2020 expense. So in essence, some of these are really high because it's including 2019 expenses. And then at the end of the year, she comes back and backs those out and offsets them. So when I did the 2020 budget, it looks like we will be on target for fee accounting, so we will not be at 104%. Some of those expenses she has in there are prior year expenses.
What's in the fee accountant category? Does that mean what your fee accountant charges you for doing the books?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good.
And then if you go down to office expenses, we're at 154%. And when I did the budget today, where did it go? We're going to be a little high than what we budgeted. And the main reason for that is before we received or were announced, I guess, that there was CARES Act funding, we had spent almost $3,000 out of our operating fund to get prepared for the CARES Act, to get prepared for staff working from home. We bought some PPE, we bought some hand sanitizer, we bought a lot of stuff before we knew the CARES Act funds were coming in. So that one's definitely, when we do the budget revision, you'll see that on there.
Does that mean that that it'll be reimbursed through the CARES Act funds, or is that, we
No.
didn't get that?
No, and I asked that question because there was several items that we ordered, but we didn't get them till April. So I was trying to slide those in there, and he said as long as we ordered it before the 27th, we could not use CARES Act funding for that. So,
At the website too.
So you're going to revise the budget to make that look not so bad.
right.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Let's see, advertising is pretty good. I am increasing the advertising budget up a little bit. And that's just because Joanne's got some marketing ideas that she's got going on. So I'm going to increase it about 2,000 to 3,000 to make sure we've got enough money in there for our advertising marketing plan that we're getting ready to do.
Okay.
So admin service contracts show 114% above budget. And again, some of the expenses in here are 2019 expenses, but I did go through those today, and we're definitely going to have to do a budget revision on this one. And the majority of that budget revision is coming from the new website. So we paid $99.95
Something like that.
for the website, just under 10,000, but that got split between FHI, Section 8, and public housing. So the public housing portion was about 88 or 8,500. So I'll have to increase that budget line item as well. We also started doing KBI criminal background checks, and that's kind of increased in the public housing program. And then when we had our computer upgrades, there was a little bit extra cost in there for the IT department to get those computers ready, get them hooked to the server, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And then the big one you'll see in tenant services is up 894%. And I went through this one as well today, and I was like, gosh, that's really high. But when I went back and looked at it, the majority of those were expenses that we paid in 2020 for 2019 that were relocation. There was also some expenses in there that we paid this year because we were waiting on Coleman to come repair some things that were damaged in the move in 2018. And I told them I wasn't paying their bill until they took care of our residents. So when I went back and looked at that, it looks like the budget will go down to about 1,900 in relocation. So there's quite a bit of money in there from prior years that she's reporting on here. Sewer is at 104%, and sewer costs did go up a little bit this year. But the main reason for that is the 2019 expense. We had like $4,000 that I paid in January that she's recording in here as a 2020 expense. That's really a 2019 expense.
What about the significant reduction in gas?
In gas?
Yeah.
Well, what I found that the reduction there is because we usually try to base our numbers off of the prior year, and since we've had more occupancy at our family sites, that's kind of decreased the gas expense that we have to pay out. And on top of that, I think maybe some of the EPC has helped in that area. But what I'm projecting for 2020's budget is instead of 40,500, I'm actually increasing that to 51,000. So in essence, we've got the additional sewer costs. We've had less vacancies, but I think what's tipping the scale is the additional sewer costs that we're seeing.
I'm talking about the gas.
Oh, my bad.
You've used so much less gas. And so I just was asking if this is the Johnson Controls energy performance thing, and it was with a 35,000 was based on the year before when there weren't that many people in the units, or how it's really significantly less.
Yeah. Well, and sorry about that, Linda, but I'm budgeting down to 17.5 in gas. And from what I can tell, it's just because we've got less vacancies at our family size. I mean,
Like half.
if that unit sits vacant for 3 or 4 months, we still have to pay gas on it. We still got to keep the gas on so the water pipes don't bust and so on and so forth. So
Plus the EPC.
plus, I think the EPC has helped tremendously.
I think we should talk a bit about revenue up at the top.
Okay.
That we are not, so we budgeted 807,000 for operating receipts, but we're only at about a little less than 500,000. That's going to cause us some problems.
Well, now on her report, she doesn't have that 232,000 for the shortfall funding. And so that's going to drastically change that number.
You're going to add that in.
Yeah. Okay. But on top of that, we budgeted 200,000 to come into operations from capital fund, and we found out later through 2020 that we can only pull 10%. Is that right? 10%? 20% into operation. So that line item is going to come down drastically down to 117,000. Okay. Our operating subsidy, we projected 551, and we're actually getting 459. Okay. And on this budget, she also doesn't have the CARES Act money that's coming in.
That's what I wondered. Okay.
That's on the prior year comparison report. So what I have budgeted is coming into us with CARES Act is almost 1.4 million in income. So if you add that 200 and some in there, that's the major increase for us.
Thank you.
So
that's it's not on the paper. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So where does our estimated net income end with all those adjustments? I mean, just a loose ballpark, knowing that there's a lot of flux in what you just described.
So like our net cash flow at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
My projections as of today is about 78,000.
Positive.
Oh,
that's good.
Yeah. Because when I first started doing it, it wasn't, and I was like, oh my goodness gracious. But yeah, what I have projected is 78,000 net cash flow.
Do those projections include, and only because historically we'd never been in the position in which we depleted our reserves, do those projections include any additional allocation towards reserves for future, or how are we starting to build up our reserves again?
Well, as of the end of October, I think you stated on here, I'll go back to our operating reserves as of October 31st was 15,872. So, if we can add 78,000 to that reserve, it will definitely make our FAS scoring look much better. And we got the FAS report back. Well, I sent the FAS report in, and then Ron sent it back to us with a report, and it looks like we have around 8 points in financial, 5 points in capital fund, and 4 points in occupancy. So since the end of last year, we've gained, what is that, 17 points on our FAS. And one of the main things is to get that operating reserve up so we can maybe get a few more points in the FAS department.
Good, good. Thank you.
And our occupancy, because we need those points from the capital fund and the management department too.
Contract miscellaneous maintenance is up 107%. And actually, some of what she has on there are 2019 expenses, and I'm proposing to actually decrease that line to 19,000 on the budget. So that's good. That means we've decreased the routine contracts that we have with the housing authority. Heating and cooling contract, she has 102 on there, and this one's actually going to increase up to 17,000, and the majority of that increase is just as Joanne talked about with the HVAC systems and the water pump issues. So as of now, I'm increasing this because we don't know for sure if we're going to get reimbursed for it, but we're hoping we do. And I should be able to decrease that back down to what it was. But it was a substantial amount of money for sure.
Just the ones I added up today were added up to almost 7,000.
Extermination contract is up. When I looked today, I was adding up how many bed bug treatments we've had, and we have had 5 this year. And I think last year maybe we had 1 or 2. So that's rising again. So I am going to adjust that line item just a little bit to cover those.
Mandy, let me ask about one of the things that the HUD people talked about was reducing our accounts receivable. Are you making progress with that?
Yeah, Linda, if you...
I'm back on page 3 of 9, I think. Assets under the...
Yes, so if you look at accounts receivable business activities, PHA 3, that's the public housing side of FHI.
Okay.
And they only owe us $2,700, and that's paid back to us. The big one is business activity, which was 67, and I think 3 or 4 months ago that amount was almost up to 78,000. So I've been able to kind of pay us back by still keeping the lights on out there.
Yeah, okay.
And then the receivable on the vouchers down to 635, and that was up to 45,000, I think 3 or 4 months ago. So.
And it got that high by, I know people not paying, but were we not as attentive as we're going to be in the future? How can you speak to how we're changing? Maybe?
Well, on the business activity side for the tax credit, so those are the tax credit units out there. You know, it's going to be hard for them to pay this 67,000 back to us because in a month their income is probably only around 10 or 11,000, but their expenses almost are that with the mortgage payment because the tax credit.
Are you talking about MAHP, or are you talking about the tenants, or who is they?
I'm talking about Flint Hills Place.
Okay. Flint Hills Place. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that one's going to be hard to pay back. Every month I send an email to Meg asking if there's any way FHI can pull some reserve money out to pay MHA back so we can get this off the books or at least get it down to where it's manageable. And I've been told that can't happen until after the first right of refusal is done. And the compliance period is done for those units. But I keep asking every single month, hoping he'll just say, okay, fine, take the money, but he hasn't yet.
Take the money and run.
As far as the voucher goes, we're doing a much better job in-house of tracking how many vouchers we have on the street, how much money we have coming in, because there was a time where we were using admin fees to pay for portability expenses or pay for HAP expenses because we weren't getting enough HAP money from HUD. And so we've learned that Kat and I and Joanne will sit down once a month and we'll look at the 2-year tool that comes from HUD and we'll decide, can we push a couple vouchers out? Do we not need to issue any new vouchers? Is there a lot of terminations coming up? And so on and so forth. So we are doing a much better job at tracking that. So we're not using admin fees for HAP. So there's not a receivable on the book to public housing.
Okay,
Plus we
thank you.
got CARES money.
Yes, the CARES money helped a lot.
Yeah.
The CARES money that came in, I used that for every admin expense that we had. And I got approval from HUD to do that. And so in essence, the money we were getting for admin fees, we put that right back towards that debt to Manhattan Housing Authority. So that's why that debt really came down fast.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Over here.
Does anybody have any more questions for Mandy? I think we fulfilled the requirement from HUD on the discussion. And Mandy will make sure all those comments are in her notes or just addend this report.
I would just add, since we talked a little bit about the scores as of October, we believe that our scores are going to look pretty darn good compared to what they look like in 2018. For 2020, we're projecting they're going to look good. They're going to show significant progress in recovery. And granted, some of that help was, if there was any silver lining to COVID at all, it was the CARES Act money. That did help us out a lot. I believe that 232,000 shortfall money is actually a part of the CARES Act also. But it really was those funds really did help us out this year. And I think it's kind of given us a little bit of a jump start to get back on the road to recovery. I'm not gonna be too overconfident that we will be out of troubled status as of the end of the year, but I think we will be very close to it. And on a call with Patty and Ron yesterday, I again got clarification that once we are out of troubled status, we don't have to mess with the action plan, because I was questioning them about the requirement that they have for us to reach and maintain a 98% occupancy. And well, that's always a goal, and we would love to have 98% occupancy. It's going to be very hard to do in an 80% market. And, so we kind of talked through that a little bit, and, we feel like as long as we get to 94 or 96 in this market, we're doing good. And it remains a goal and always will be a goal. We won't get any points for occupancy unless we have at least, 92% occupancy? And that's 1 point. And so that concerns me. It is good that we have people on the waiting list. The thing that you have to understand about the waiting list is people come in and they apply, but because they're on the waiting list doesn't mean that when we get to them they're still interested. It doesn't mean that they're even still in the area or that they're eligible until we go through that entire process. So that's why we not only need to fill our units, but we need to grow our waiting list so we have a larger pool of people who are eligible and can sustain the weight on the list, if that makes any sense.
Mandy, I noticed that you have no auditing fees for a year to date. Oh, wait a minute, that isn't true, is it? Oh, you've budgeted 13,900.
Yeah.
When will we be spending the money for the audit for this year? If we
We
haven't
actu-
already.
We actually have spent it already, but we spent it out of CARES funds.
Okay.
So
all right,
if you look on that page 8 of 9, it'll show
Yeah.
on there.
Okay. I was on 5 of 9. Okay, I'll get there. I mean, I've been through it. I just.
Okay.
And when will you be making the budget revision for 2020? Is that yet in December or when?
Yeah, I'm working on it right now, and we'll be sending it. No, we won't send the revision to HUD. It'll
Oh,
be.
yeah, we have the revision too.
We'll send it to HUD after I get it done. They'll review it, ask any questions, make any adjustments. And then it will be on the board agenda in December. We have a huge board agenda in December. So we'll have 2021 budget during that time as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if we're done with the items that were in the consent agenda this time, I'd like to call the question.
Jan,
Yes,
Libby,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
Kennedy,
her head's rattling.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Phil.
Abstain on A, yes on B and C.
Okay, under commissioner comments, I'm going to bring up an unhappy subject. We need to review Joanne's performance for the year. And we usually have her send out forms now, and everybody fills them out and gets them back to me, and we discuss it at the December meeting. So, Joanne,
Yes, you have to
Um,
review me, I'm gonna be gone 2 months later.
I don't care. I think we should review you because we always do that.
Okay, we'll stick with the position.
So that means we will need a document from you that talks about, that goes back and shows what you did with your goals. And some suggested goal process for next year. And the form so that we can do that. So if you can get that out to us in the next 10 days, and each of us individually, and then if everybody, upon receipt of said document, will fill out their form and send it to me, I will get them back together so that I can have that prepared by a week before the meeting. Is everybody okay with that?
yeah, give us a deadline when somebody gets it together. So we always meet like the 3rd Wednesday. So you want it by like the 2nd Wednesday or?
So the third Wednesday in December is the 16th.
Yeah,
So Joanne, if you could get that to us by December 1st, and then if everybody can fill them out and get them to me by the following weekend, the 5th or 6th, I can get it ready by that Friday.
okay, thank you.
Does that sound ridiculous and unfair and horrible?
I think it's good to have some fixed dates. Thank you.
Okay. And in the document, Joanne, that you prepare with goals for 2021. Obviously, you're going to include the fact that you're leaving, and I don't want to talk about it. But I'd like you to do some serious thinking about what you think needs to happen when the new director comes in, and include some growth and development goals for that new person and so forth in the goal process. Okay? So anybody else have a commissioner's comment? Okay. Mandy, you got all those dates?
Yep.
Okay. All right, now we're going on to old business. So we need a short but happy RAD update.
Yeah, it's going to be very short. The capital physical needs assessment inspections are going to occur December 1st through the 3rd. The inspectors will be on site. They requested several pieces of documentation from us. I sent them everything from building blueprints to unit demographics to past energy audits and past REACT inspections. So they are kind of putting things together on the front end, and will come out, and I believe they inspect 25% of the units at each site. And they will then, I believe they have 4 weeks to get their report, the draft initial report together, send it to us, and we'll make any corrections. And without seeing the report, I don't know what corrections we could possibly make, but anyway, and then I think they return it to any corrections to us within 10 days. And it will go to HUD and the HUD consultant, the technical assistance consultant, and then she will be able to kind of formulate her perspective of our situation and our properties and what would be a good route to go as a recommendation. So I would think that maybe we could pick up having some more tangible discussions, maybe by the January meeting, if not at least February.
Okay, great. Okay, and I think we've sort of discussed the next one already. Is there anything else we need to add to the FARS assessment issue?
Well, the peer-to-peer reports that were sent out by HUD, I had attached those to the board packet email, and Linda, was that what you were wanting to discuss, or was it the board information that HUD had sent out? Okay. They had sent 2 different emails out to the board and myself, and one of them was titled, it was kind of a breakdown of the FAS score, and I know that's a bit confusing
Pretty much.
information to read. It's confusing even for us, and we speak this language every day. So I would like to kind of take this information and put it into a different perspective that includes our numbers. They're kind of showing you how the scores are reached, and I don't think without seeing the real-time numbers next to it, it is probably going to make a lot of sense to most of you.
You're right.
So
That just, none of that made any sense to me. I tried to read the first couple pages, and after that, it was like, I didn't get it.
yes, Well, there's a lot of acronyms that are included in here, and so like I told Jen, I was a little surprised that she sent it out without more explanation, but I will try to do that and resend it, and we can discuss again maybe at next month's meeting. It's going to be a long meeting, but at least maybe it will be a little bit easier to understand. I did, Mandy and I both talked with Patty and Ron about this information, and one of my biggest concerns was it was a long spreadsheet that had lots of colors in it, and it's a peer-to-peer report, and so my concern was, what they did was they took our average income or expenses per month and compared them to several other housing authorities, several small housing authorities, which can be anywhere from 250 units to 20 units, and then average those out. So to see how we compare on an average to others in the Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa region. And, you know, in some years, we look like we're way high compared to some of these other ones. But then again, if you have a housing authority that only has 20 units, that is going to skew the expenses. However, keep in mind that they are per unit per month expenses. And I also expressed concern because I said, well, how many of those housing authorities had a high rise that was down for 4 years under construction, and they drained their reserves and every other bit of money they could find to do that, and are in a recovery process right now. And you know, I said a lot of the increased expenses are still because of the apartment towers project. And so I think it kind of skews. Well, then it became, well, you know, it's just something for you to look at to help you with future planning and da 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 da. So Mandy asked them to send us a 2019 peer-to-peer review. And I was also adamant that I'd like to see what housing authorities were being compared against. And so he did send us a 2019 peer-to-peer review for 2019 in a different format, and it does show the housing authorities that we're being compared against. But I mean, we just got it today, so neither Mandy or I have really had a chance to sit down and look at it. So we'll look at that, but that's what the spreadsheet is all about. And for each year, it has outlines what our per unit per month expense look like next to one of our peers. So that explains that report. The pages that say PIH OFO Recovery Initiative is really kind of a tutorial on how to read an FDS and show our operating income and expenses over the past several years. And then the first few pages are, of course, their calculations, how they determine our score. A lot of their suggestions, I don't think, are anything that we haven't heard before, except that they made a comment that about how evaluation should be conducted. And one of their suggestions was that the executive director's evaluation should be based on the FAS score, which is not far-fetched. However, when the executive director's evaluation is done, the FAS score isn't even close to being calculated and out. So they suggested we go a year prior to that. and understanding that that may have to be adjusted for an incoming executive director because they're kind of walking into this. You know, the measurement would be how much have we improved? And now we have the spreadsheets to track our score each month. So that will be a help.
Okay. So if she says it's just background stuff, then I feel like we don't have to worry very much about it right now. We got other things to worry about.
I think it is more guidance than anything in guiding our future, looking at our past and guiding our future.
Okay. I don't know if this is new business or old business that I need to add. Is discussing the thing we've been doing in executive session. Is that old business or new business? Because I'm not sure we have to go into an executive session to discuss it. Keisha. The
I know what you're talking about. What do you think, Jamie?
is it new business or old business?
I think for candidness, we should probably go into executive session just to make sure we're on the same page, but I don't know. I would say it's probably old business. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say it fits in that category, but I think we should go into executive session just to give the board an opportunity to kind of touch base candidly and make sure we're all on the same page without any issues.
Okay, how long do you think we should take? 15 minutes?
Jan, are we gonna do new business?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is old business because we've been discussing this for a couple months.
So are
Do
you
you
wanting-
quickly let's do the new business, let's do the marketing plan and come back to it.
Okay.
I think that makes sense.
Let me just ask a real quick question. Is the executive session to discuss the item as it's described on the agenda?
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on I think the front page.
It's the last thing in the,
Okay. Is it after new business? Because I don't see, executive session. Okay, let's do the marketing plan. Joanne, has this changed since last month?
I didn't present this last month. We did talk about it. And, you know, we had a marketing plan previously that was much shorter. Did I not? Oh yeah, I did it. Like, where is it?
It's really pretty.
Yeah, it's really pretty. I tried to be colorful with it. There are a lot of dates and what have you that are not inserted in there, but this is not only a marketing plan, it's kind of a tracking form so that we can show what we did and when we did it. And if we have units that are ready but not filled, we can say, here you go, HUD, here's our changing market conditions, and here's what we did to fill them. So I do need to add a couple of agencies on here. I neglected to include the health department, the Riley County Health Department under social service agencies,
Okay.
as well as, now I forgot what was the other one, Mandy, we talked about. The Riley County Health, well, I have it written down in my notes in my office, but the Riley County Health Department definitely, because we are getting some referrals from them through the community care team and the contact tracers as they talk to families or finding people with needs. But
Oh, that's great.
yeah,
Wow, neat.
yeah.
Joanne,
Let's
I
use
wondered-
those twice.
that is, it's wonderful news. I wondered if you would add Manhattan Christian College to the educational institution.
Good idea.
And then under television broadcast, there's more than just K-Man, so it might be Manhattan Broadcasting, company because there are several stations under that umbrella that are local. And I don't know all of them. I listened to one or two, but not four. So
Okay.
whatever they are.
Any other suggestions, anybody? So will we suspect that we're going to start seeing some dates added to your begin and end dates columns?
Yes, you should.
Okay,
This is going to be kind of a living document so that we,
right.
like I said, not only to kind of guide our plan, but to also track what we have done.
Okay.
Could you
And
send the board members the ad that you're putting in? I just want a graphic, the ad you're using. I don't want to make it up myself, but I certainly have the ability to put some ads on my Facebook account and on Nextdoor and do some things, but I am reluctant to just develop an ad all by myself.
Okay.
I need it to be, you know, is it everything, anybody that makes under $21,000 or, you know, if we give them just a tiny bit of information, they can kind of self-sort. Okay, thanks.
Yes, that's a great idea. I think I should challenge every board member to do the same.
okay, and then probably on that online and social media, you ought to add Nextdoor.
We're actually working on setting that one up. Alyssa's been really good. She's set up our Twitter page. She has set up our Instagram. I set up our YouTube page for the board meetings, so they're out there. And then she was going to work on doing Nextdoor, and there was one more. There's
Okay.
one more she's working
Well,
on.
there are some, like Northview Rising has a couple of hundred members. I can send it to their leader. I mean,
Yeah.
there are things we can do if, and we won't think of all of them on the same day. I expect you know,
Yeah.
to be thinking new things. So anyway, there you go.
And I think I do have Northview Rising and Mutual Aid, I have Mutual Aid,
Hmm.
MHK on here.
Yeah, and there may be others I don't know about.
I thought I had Northview Rising on here somewhere.
I don't know. I'm just mentioning it just so.
I did subscribe to their email blast or their newsletter or
Sure.
whatever they call it.
Okay. So for people who do those social media things, if you would send, and I don't do any of them, but I think everybody else does, send something that you would like them to put on theirs that they could share. So
Do we
that
have
it's,
anyone that can do infographics or short videos? Do we have access to anyone that knows how to do that kind of thing? I think things like the income guidelines would be really great if we had them in an easy to understand format, like an infographic. That's really shareable. That's the thing that causes discussion. When you see how much money you can make as a family and still qualify for public housing,
yes,
people talk about that and share that. Also, like tours of the different units so that people know what the different units look like. That's
Yeah,
an easy thing to put
talked about
on
that.
social media or on the website.
Yeah, we've talked about staging one of those studio apartments in the towers and doing a video of that.
At the
Maybe a
risk,
studio and a one bedroom.
Yeah,
Well, don't you still have it, one that you show people? I mean, like we'd had on the open house. With 17 vacant, we can sure keep one that just looks nice so we can take pictures of it. And
I wonder if we can take it off. I wonder if we can take a unit offline for marketing. I'll have to ask about that.
okay.
I don't care whether it's offline or not, and you're not gonna fill it with stuff. You're just gonna, you know.
Well, I think we should actually stage one of those studios so that it looks nice and enticing, and then film that.
And like
And
Libby,
Mandy and I have talked about this several times.
make a video like Libby suggested. Yeah.
I don't think we want to video somebody who's living there. That would be,
No, I'm just talking about, we got 17 empty ones. A coffee table and a flower. I don't know.
no, no, all right. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
we can rent furniture, short term, like on
Yeah.
a month to month. That's what we did for the open house to stage a 1-bedroom and an efficiency. If we're
Habitat-
lucky, maybe we can get
Habitat's
somebody
got
to donate it. I'm sorry?
Habitat's got cheap furniture.
We're trying to give them furniture.
Oh,
You know what, Joanne, you might ask Eileen Myers does that video of her properties. And if you could get something staged, she might be happy to come in and help you with that. You can tell her I said so.
Okay. I think
I
Mandy
do-
had mentioned her before too.
Tell her I volunteered her.
Okay. Oh, I will. I bet she'll be.
She'll just love that.
I think all this sounds fantastic, so I don't want to derail any of these great ideas, but I do want to make sure that, especially if we're posting stuff individually, that that we do make sure that we're following any like fair housing, advertising guidelines, any of that stuff, so we don't inadvertently do something illegal or
Right.
anti-regulatory. So I know that there's guidelines under fair housing that we have to follow, and I want to make sure we don't inadvertently.
One very important thing is that every one of our ads, like an ad that we would send you and you would just copy and paste into it, will have the fair housing logo like you see on the letterhead. It's very important that that fair housing logo be there. We have to have that on literally everything.
So, but
And I
if you're
think if
gonna
we're,
send,
I love the
that's
idea of us like kind of giving some description of what people can actually qualify for and get, but we want to make sure that we don't indicate anything that like breaches a preference or a limitation or discrimination or any of those categories specifically. So I don't want to derail this because I love where we went with that, but I just want to make sure that before we actually send anything out, especially if we're doing it individually on Facebook or different sources, we want to make sure we know what's going out and it's been vetted.
Right. If you're not sure and you want somebody in our office to review it, just feel free to send it and we'll see if we see any red flags in there. Not that we're the
but you could send it in the form of a graphic that, the ad or information with the proper logo and everything in the graphic, so that if people want to post it on Facebook or Twitter or anything, then they know it's correct. It's legal.
Yeah.
I
That
thought
would be-
we were just going to be reposting whatever gets posted to the Housing Authority Facebook page. I wasn't going to go rogue.
You're good.
I was just
I
going
was
to
just
repost and
clarifying
share.
to make sure. I just wanted to make sure, just to make sure that didn't get lost in the great ideas.
That's why we have our attorney here.
Not an attorney yet. Not an attorney yet. I have to make sure that's known. Still a
We can-
banker.
we can also always let you guys know that something new's been posted. Has everybody liked or friended or whatever you do on Facebook us so that you see our posts, MHA posts?
I think so. I hope
Okay.
so.
So just, you can always go out and share that.
I thought I did, but I don't receive much. So I don't know, and maybe I didn't.
Well, we haven't been extremely active on there, so.
Maybe that's okay. Well, I just want whatever you put in the newspaper, I can put on Facebook.
Okay.
You know, I don't want anything. I'm not going to get creative. That's why I'm asking for the what you have developed and you're already using is fine. So,
Okay.
but there are other housing authorities that have developed ads, I bet, somewhere. So I'd be happy to steal one of them.
I plagiarize all the time.
Run. Anyway, we can move on.
Okay, any other discussion on the updated marketing plan?
No, I'm glad to see it expanded. It's so much more comprehensive than what we had. And we had, as you pointed out, Joanne, we have accomplished a lot that was on the first plan. So we needed a robust marketing plan, and that's what HUD is after. So when will you be submitting this to them as our revised marketing plan?
It's done. She did
That's
that.
$1 million question.
Oh, I thought you were gonna do-
I can submit it to them anytime. I guess my question for them, and I should have asked this when we talked to them yesterday, though, is, when does it count as we have created the marketing plan? Because we don't even have an approved plan back yet from them. But, that is not going to stop us from working on it.
I want to get credit. I want you to get credit for improving the marketing plan. And it sounds like, and that's because of this action plan. And if you're gonna go pursue an alternate path by making a bunch of new points, then we will abandon the action plan. I just want to be sure that these things that they were so critical of us about, I want to get them on record as having submitted them so that they back off.
I understand. And, as I stated earlier, I started to, I don't know if I finished that slide or not, but, once we get a score of 60 or above, we are out of troubled status. And even if we're substandard in one category, so for instance, if we're still financial substandard, but our overall score for management, financial, physical, and capital fund is 60 or above, we are technically out of troubled status, and we're very close. I'm telling you, we're very close. But the action plan, as Mandy heard him say it on the phone yesterday, goes away. You're done with all of that. However, I think it's important that my successor not only carry on the action plan, obviously, because we have to, but, doing exercises like the action plan is probably a good idea to carry forward and keep on the goals list, so that it doesn't get kind of tucked under. Housing authorities traditionally have not had to do marketing. People were lining up at doors because they needed the assistance. And marketing is kind of a little bit of a new thing for public housing agencies. And so, we're stepping into it, and if it's something we have to continue doing, but, at some point you also have to know when it's time to back off a little bit, because you don't want to have waiting lists so long that you can't ever get to the people that are on it. So
Yeah, and we got in trouble for that too.
We've been there.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's just my 2 cents.
thank you. That's enough.
Okay. All right, I want to get on to this executive session thing very quickly because it's now almost 10 after 7. How much time do we think we need, Keisha? Shamey? 20 minutes?
Let's say 20. I
Okay.
hope we don't need that long, but let's say 20.
Okay, somebody make a motion to go into executive session until 7:30.
Madam Chair, I move that we recess into executive session until 7:30.
Second,
Hey, Jan, I just want to point out, so if you guys go in there for 20 minutes, you have to stay in for 20 minutes. You can't come out early.
Oh,
Oh,
is that a new thing?
That's a coma thing.
That is
I mean,
something Mandy learned on a coma training the other day.
sometimes we
Just
sit
don't
there for the
tell
last, sometimes we sit there for the last 2 or 3 or 5 minutes just waiting for the clock. But more often than not, it's hard to estimate, and we end up going back to make a motion and to go back into executive session just to finish up. So if anybody,
All right, let's do it and get it over with. Come on, guys.
Wait a
We're
minute,
moving
Let's
in.
cut it
somebody
back.
second?
Let's,
but I
can we
need
cut
to
it
vote.
back? Let's
All
cut it
right,
back.
Jamie says, let's cut it back to 15 minutes. So it's
Yeah.
7:25. It's a friendly amendment to the motion.
All right, Jan,
Yes,
Linda,
yes,
Livy,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Phil.
Yes.
okay, what do you have to do technically to do this?
stop recording. Oh, we have,
Do this with Phil in the room.
You're just gonna.
You guys could just leave the room.
Right. We stopped.
We're timed out.
Yeah, all right, you're back in.
and
Okay,
regular meeting.
the action, this is what we were discussing is the advertising of the executive director's position, which we have written, actually, Kennedy and Jamie have written 2 versions of the job description. And we have a short version that we would like to post and a longer version for anybody that asks for more information. We would like the office to set up a separate private email, administrative email of some kind to put as the place where people should send their applications. And Kennedy and I and Livy are going to be the review committee. And Kennedy will be the one who will access that email to collect applications and share them with the 2 of us. When we get to the top 5, we're going to share them with the rest of the board. What else am I missing, Kennedy?
I think that's all.
But we do want to post it on the website. Is that what you said?
We want the email on the website so that they can contact if they have additional questions via email or something like that.
We have a separate, or not a separate, but on our webpage, we have a page for job postings. So we can actually just post the advertisement there.
Yeah, but I think we want to have it also in other places.
Oh, yes, yes. But I mean, as an additional resource.
That's a good, I mean, it's a job within the housing authority. It makes sense to post it on that at that location. And then the committee will talk about wherever else they want it to be. Like, what newspapers do you want? Or what Indeed? Or what are have you already
Okay,
talked about that?
I'm going to suggest this. Kennedy will have a discussion with Joanne about how and where to post it
There you go.
and how and where to receive it.
Okay.
And then you can let Livy and I know what we're doing.
Joanne, will you send me some dates that work for you next week? In the meantime, if everybody else could just go through and maybe send me your feedback by next Tuesday, then I will try and get that up and together by then. Joanne, can you send me some times that work for you next week so that you and I can meet probably via Zoom or something?
Yep.
I think we need to pay for an ad in the Manhattan Mercury. Just to add 2 cents there.
See it as a courtesy?
No, I think that there's an applicant pool here. We have a really intelligent community.
Do you want to advertise outside the community too, like in the surrounding areas? Because like the Wamego Times, the Smoke Signal, the Junction City Daily Post, they are much more economical than posting in the Mercury. I agree, you should post in the Mercury, but
It can be a different sizes based on what paper you, anyway, Karen can do that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get in touch with you and work it all out. But I just think that there has to be something in our local paper.
And so we want to get this posted in early December. or by around the 1st,
Okay.
and have application, and you guys work out a schedule for when we want them to be received and so forth, and let us know.
Sounds good.
We also have the ability to post through our Kansas NARO network, and it doesn't cost anything.
Sounds
Cool.
They'll just send it out to all the members.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, you guys are gonna work that all out, and then Kennedy will let Livy and I know what's going on.
I have a couple questions in this regard. Well, I'm not gonna ask, I'm gonna offer if anybody would like for me to look through the job descriptions with any suggestions or comments, I will be happy to do so. If you don't want to, then that's up to you all.
Sure.
It's
Yeah, I
good,
think you and
Joanne
I can
wrote-
talk about all of that during our time together next week.
Okay,
It said you were the author, Joanne, what I looked at.
It's based on the current job description that you sent us. I mean, it's not like a total. It's not a
total rewrite.
No.
It's your job description, and then I placed modified by the board, 2020 board members. So, but yeah, you and I can definitely go over that next week. I'll get all the feedback from the board members, and then that way when you and I meet, we'll be prepared. Like I'll have the documents.
Okay,
Okay. Are we good? Okay. If there's anything else for the good of the order, I think everybody's probably starving. I say, good night, have dinner.
Good night.
Adjourn.
Good night.
Bye.
thanks,
Thank you all.
everybody.
Yep,
Good
thanks.
to see everyone.
Bye.